Well, welcome everyone and happy Wednesday. This is Josh of Severe Weather, and I appreciate you joining me this afternoon. Major storm impacting the East Coast today and tonight. That is going to follow with much colder weather and still an active weather pattern next week with shots of cold continuing. But it may be cold enough for some snow for parts of us here and parts of the Northeast into Atlantic Canada right before Christmas, as low pressure may be developing close to the coast. So we're going to talk about what's going on in the short term first, and then I'm going to give you a sneak peek of what's to come leading up to Christmas. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you could, please become a subscriber and like and share this video with your friends. If you are like me and very interested in the weather and want to keep updated on things, I'm here to help you out. That's what my calling is. So we're going to take a look at the current radar here first, and this is from perryweather.com, and you can see a major area of heavy rain impacting those of us here on the East Coast with thunderstorms over the coastal sections of North Carolina, Virginia, and just offshore the New Jersey coastline. We do have this rain continuing to spread north and eastward here into Atlantic Canada, freezing rain farther northward of that around Quebec and Montreal. And then we've got snow on the backside, and it is moving in very quickly to places like the Chicagoland area, Indianapolis, Louisville, and Frankfurt. We even have a little bit of lightning to areas just to the west of Lafayette in Indiana. And this rain is changing quickly over to snow in western PA. That changeover continues into the night tonight, and we're going to talk about how much will be occurring afterwards. You can see the cold air driving southward here, sub-zero temperatures across the Dakotas and Minnesota, teens all the way down to Iowa, and we're looking at below freezing temperatures here in West Virginia and western PA. On the other side of the front, we're pushing 70 degrees in places like Wilmington, North Carolina this Wednesday afternoon, lower 80s in South Florida. It's not hard to see where our front is, right about here, and that is going to be marching eastward here through the night tonight. We do have another storm system set to move into the western United States as well. You can see that here on the water vapor image from Tropical Tidbits. Here's that low, and here's the moisture feed moving into Oregon and parts of California. There's a subtropical jet as well, sending moisture into southern Cal and into the desert southwest. Here's our big East Coast system, massive trough digging southeastward here, sending that cold back into the region after a brief warm-up. And you can see where all of our moisture is riding up and along this front here. Just a very dynamic storm system. Fortunately, though, we've not had much severe weather with it. The main threat has been the wind. You can see high wind warnings this afternoon and evening over eastern parts of New England, as well as the flood threat across the entirety of New England, far eastern parts of New York State as well. And we do have winter weather advisories and even some winter storm warnings over portions of the Great Lakes into the Appalachians. On the West Coast, here comes our next system here. We've got winter weather advisories out for the mountains here in parts of California. We still have red flag conditions in Southern California. I've been monitoring the fires in the Malibu area here near Pepperdine University, and those are unfortunately going to continue, although we are going to see higher amounts of humidity in the coming days. The temperatures are tumbling tonight. You can see the mildest temperatures tonight in the east outside of South Florida will actually be across Maine, Massachusetts, and coastal New Hampshire. But very quickly it turns colder. You can see our front driving its way off the coast here by 4 in the morning, and below 10 degrees Fahrenheit, below zero in parts of Minnesota. That cold continues to advance tomorrow, and a much colder day here. Now the winds are going to relax, but we will struggle to get out of the teens in places like Bradford, Pennsylvania, and Saranac Lake, New York, and into the teens in Chicago as well. And you can see where there's a very well-defined border between seasonable cold and unseasonable cold. And that stretches across central Missouri, right around St. Louis and down into western Kentucky. But definitely a chilly day again for tomorrow after a few days break. You'll see a cold night again tomorrow night. And then temperatures do begin to slowly recover as we head into Friday. We'll be back in the 50s in the Carolinas, 30s and 40s in the mid-Atlantic, and still cold over the Great Lakes region here for Friday. Another cold night Friday night, then temperatures begin to rebound. Now, I'm most concerned about our winds here in the short term with power outages possible across eastern New England as well as in the mountains here. You can see our wind gusts are going to be up through the roof near the waters, and you can see winds picking up here in advance of our front this afternoon and then ramping up even more this evening in places like Boston and Barnstable and across the islands here. We could see wind gusts that get as high as 85 miles per hour on the islands here. But after this front pushes through, the winds still stay strong for an hour or two, but then they begin to drop off with that offshore flow sending in the much colder air. So this is going to be a threat that's really just limited to about 6 hours, and then things will be breezy and brisk tomorrow, but certainly not nearly as damaging throughout the day tomorrow. Looking farther up the coast here into Maine, we can see winds this evening could approach hurricane force in the Portland area, as well as close to Lewiston, but stronger winds across down east Maine, including Bangor. And you can see here, we may even have wind gusts over 80 miles per hour around Acadia National Park and Bar Harbor and those areas. And wind gusts are also going to be up in that hurricane force wind category into portions of New Brunswick here overnight tonight. Highest around 3 or 4 in the morning. Then things are going to relax some, but very windy across the mountains into the day on Thursday. Here's a look at the projected radar, and you can see the heaviest rain will be early tonight across New England, although later tonight in Maine before our system pushes out. Then we're going to see rain changing back over to snow here from west to east as the night wears on. It's going to be pretty quick moving, so we're not going to see an extreme accumulation here. In fact, more snow comes behind the system with the lake effect than with the system itself. But boy, will it be getting a lot colder. And you can see heading into Friday, we continue to have lake effect snow bands affecting those of us off of Lakes Huron and also off of Lake Ontario. This would be Friday evening around 9 o'clock. Rain totals are going to be pretty significant here. Amounts could get up to as high as 6 or 7 inches just offshore, but even close to 4 inches in the Hamptons, 2 to 3 around Boston, several inches as well across portions of Maine. So that flood watch very much is warranted here. I know for me in Raleigh, we've got about 1.5 inches of rain, and it certainly came down hard for a while during the day today. It will be winding down here, but that is all heading up the East Coast here, as is the wraparound snow showers that we're going to see here. Generally speaking, outside of the lake effect, most of us are going to see less than a few inches. But once the lake effect kicks in overnight into tomorrow, we've got a band that sets up that could produce some pretty extreme amounts again, in excess of 2 to 3 feet of new snow. Looking back across the Great Lakes, we are seeing some pretty unstable weather as this big upper level trough swings through. So some bursts of snow here through the evening across Indiana, southwest Michigan, even parts of Kentucky. And then that swings into Ohio and West Virginia late tonight. But behind this, there's another bit of a feature that's going to move its way into Iowa, Minnesota, or Missouri, not Minnesota, and western Illinois during the morning tomorrow. And that could put down a little bit of snow as the ground will be a lot colder here in the morning. And then that will spread eastward here into Indiana late in the day and then into Ohio during the early evening hours. It should begin to fade when it hits the northern panhandle of West Virginia, southwestern PA, and western Maryland here late tomorrow night around 3, 4 in the morning. But there could be some accumulation with that as well. Here's what the NAM model is saying will happen outside of lake effect here, which will be locally heavy. Take a look at this little band here that kind of sneaks in right along the Iowa-Missouri border through central Illinois into central Indiana, and maybe even sneaking into parts of central Ohio. Here's an idea of how much snow could fall from that. You'll see it starts here around 8 in the morning Eastern, 7 Central in southern Iowa. And then locally, a band of maybe a couple of inches of snow here will actually fall. And that could continue over towards Champaign and maybe Indianapolis and Fishers and those areas, and eventually sneaking into portions of western Ohio. Now, the severe weather threat here has been lowered some. We had a slight risk earlier all the way up the northeast coast down to marginal. I think this is going to get dropped here tonight. Yes, it's windy with this system, but this is not a big outbreak of severe weather. The winds are coming from the front. The dynamics are good, but the instability is not very good with this system. So we'll track it until it moves off the coast, but we're not done. Unfortunately, after this, we see the cold returning here, and then another system takes shape here over the plains early in the weekend. That could bring some freezing rain into portions of Iowa and southern Minnesota and eventually into Wisconsin here. That's this area in pink. And you can see this storm, while not particularly strong, will be running into cold air. So we do need to be concerned about that ice and also a little bit of snow. That heads to the eastern U.S. here towards the beginning of next week. We could have some precipitation challenges with ice. And then the next system that comes in from the west moves in early next week. That one will have a warmer feel to it, but it will bring back some wind and snow behind it as well. There's another wave behind it. So every couple of days, we reload here with another system. There's nothing major, but these will be impactful systems. And then we're keeping an eye on the East Coast here next weekend, maybe even as soon as Friday, but models are indicating another area of low pressure might try to sneak in underneath it here for Saturday the 21st. Now, this is the GFS. I'm going to take it out just a little further. I thought I was going to, I guess not, but that's okay. I'm going to show you the European as well, which gives us some interesting looks. This is the AI. Here you see storm after storm after storm. It's getting colder around the 20th, so the end of next week, another cold shot comes down. And then you can see low pressure trying to spin up here around the 21st or 22nd. That's a weekend leading up to Christmas here. And these dashed blue lines indicate sub-zero temperatures Celsius aloft, so sub-freezing layer. So some of this here may not just be rain. We could be talking about a wintry mix or even some snow, especially back in here where the air aloft is pretty cold. So we're watching this area for low pressure development. It's probably going to head up in this direction towards Atlantic Canada. Again, with this being more than a week away, that can certainly change, but there's some blocking showing up here. And so the European AI says, hey, we might have a winter storm next weekend, and then moving out in time for Christmas, but that could put some snow on the ground. And then things are going to warm up leading up to Christmas. But here comes another boundary dropping down with some pretty cold air. So that's the AI. Here is the European operational. It doesn't go out as far, but it does give us some clues as what's to happen. And you can see here, storm moving into the west today and tonight. That moves on to the plains over the weekend. Next storm follows a couple days later. And then a weaker system farther south. The European says we'll have to keep an eye on some winter mix here. Around the 18th and 19th over parts of the Mid-South. That heads up the East Coast here on the 20th, taking a track very similar to the storm that we're dealing with now, but you can see the European also develops another low. Now, this particular model run says it's going to be just offshore, but if it were farther inland, it would be cold enough for snow here. And you can see at the very last minute here, it does blow this up into a nor'easter moving away from New England on the 22nd. And blasting eastern Canada here with heavy snow and heavy rain across the Maritimes here. So we're going to have to watch this here. It's a ways off, but nonetheless, the weather pattern is going to stay interesting here over the next couple of weeks. Take a look at the temperature swings we're about to see here. Here comes the cold. These pinks and purples indicate temperatures that are going to be 30 to 40 degrees below the seasonal average here for the middle of December. That is what's coming out of central Canada into tomorrow morning. Now, it stays cold into the first part of the weekend, and then we start to warm back up here early next week. You can see the mild air is back in time for the beginning of next week, but it's fleeting. We get back to chillier temperatures here by Thursday and Friday of next week, and a prolonged period of chilly temperatures again heading into next weekend. So there's definitely cold in place here. The question mark at this point is how are the storms going to behave and where are they going to track? And as always, I don't know the exact answer just yet. I'd be lying if I did. But we're going to have to keep an eye on things here on the East Coast with that cold air supply certainly still in place heading up to the 22nd and 23rd. So I hope you all have a great evening. I am traveling for the rest of the week. I probably will not be back here until Sunday at the earliest, and I apologize for that. But I want to thank you for your time. I'm praying for everybody's health and safety. I thank you all for your time. I give all the honor and glory to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His faithful love endures forever. 1 Chronicles 16:34. And I hope you're thankful for the many blessings that you have today in your life and that you stay safe this holiday season. I will see you all when I get back. Have a great day.